Welcome to the show, All Things Writing. I am your host, Brian the Writer. Let me take you on a journey through my writing life and introduce you to some of the amazing talent that exists in the writing world. Whether you are looking for a little advice or just to catch an interesting interview, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All Things Writing starts now. Welcome to All Things Writing. As you know, I am Brian the Writer, the host for the show. I want to thank you for joining us today. It really, honestly, it means the world to me that you're here. You could be doing anything at this point during the day, but you're not. You're here with me, spending some time, and I just want to show my gratitude. Speaking of gratitude, it's the time of year to be showing gratitude, and what better way to show my gratitude than to pour out my heartfelt thanks for this month's show sponsor, Magic Mind. I love this stuff, by the way. What is Magic Mind? Well, it's the world's first productivity drink. I love it. So it comes in this shot, which you can either just drink, or you can throw in your workout bag, or you can take it with you to the beach. It's small, it's compact, very, very easy to use, but it's not the size that matters. What actually matters is what's inside of it. It has a little bit of caffeine. However, it also has a bunch of different ingredients that are very, very good for you, and they support brain health, function, clarity. Honestly, it's a great thing to try. I drink it. I absolutely love it. So listen, if you don't want to soak yourself in another endless stream of cappuccinos or lattes, or you don't want another cup of coffee because there's the crash that goes along with it, consider Magic Mind next time. It's available on Amazon, or you can go to Magic Mind's website. Just check out the website listed in this video, and you can have it. It's perfect. So check out Magic Mind. I did. I'm glad I did. Check it out. You're going to like it. Let me ask you a question. Let me just pose this question. This theoretical scenario. You walk into a room, and you're standing there with a bunch of people in the room, and you're talking, but no words come out of your mouth. So nobody hears you. Nobody can hear anything you're saying. That's what it's kind of like when you're a YouTuber and you post a video, but there's people that watch it and don't hit subscribe. We don't know you're listening. So I beg of you, please hit that subscribe button. It genuinely means the world to me. It lets me know you're out there. And by the way, the interaction I have with you on YouTube, very important to me. I read all your comments. I read everything you say to me, and it helps to make the content better as we go along. Don't be one of those people that watches the video and doesn't subscribe. Hitting the subscribe button is so easy, and you get stuff out of it. For example, you are a very lucky duck, because if you hit the subscribe button, not only do you get to know when my new videos come out, but I'm going to do something just for the YouTubers here. This is kind of an experiment, okay? I am putting up a special QR code right now that you can scan with your phone, and you can go get a free e-copy of The Dramatic Dead, which is the first book in my Dramatic Dead series. By the way, the next book of The Nameless Dead this is the third book in the series, is coming out right now. But you can read the first one for absolutely free just by hitting up that QR code, just because you subscribe, just because you watch this video. That's all you have to do. So I want to thank you very much for doing this. Please don't be one of those people that watches the video and doesn't hit subscribe. Please don't hit up subscribe. I can only beg so many times. Okay, enough of my begging. Now, on with the show. And I have to say a good hearty morning, because it is morning right now, or actually afternoon. I'm sorry, it's not morning, it's afternoon. So I say good afternoon to my next guest. He's the author of the Tales from Guyan. He's a fellow military veteran, and everybody knows I love to have fellow vets on. Mr. Chris Grooms. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you, Brian, for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, I always start my shows essentially the exact same way. Please tell us about yourself.
So I spent 20 years on active duty in the Marine Corps. I have a wonderful, lovely woman who said yes to me to be my bride. and I've got two terrific boys, both of them out on their own and successful in their own right. So very proud.
That's always, I think that's always the proudest moment for a parent, I think, when your kids are successful, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and they too have found wonderful young ladies that said yes.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's cool. Um, Now, I am not familiar with the world you have built. I do find it very interesting, though, that you draw inspiration from Terry Brooks. Um,
He if what's the quote? If Tolkien is the godfather of fantasy writing, then Terry Brooks is the crazy uncle.
oh, absolutely. I got the chance a couple years ago to sit down and interview him,
Oh,
and that was
excellent.
an amazing experience. But
I'm sure it was.
tell us about this fictional world you built.
So Guyand was really the genesis from writing some adventures for Dungeons and Dragons. And you sort of fantasy build, you build your world as you write these adventures. And when my children headed off to college and got married, there was some creativity left. And when COVID hit and we all shut down, I swore I wasn't going to waste it. So I turned back to these and started writing some short stories, and one thing led to another, which is the first book, Legends.
Mhm.
But I had this idea in mind of these different cultures, different parts of the world, and I just put them together. And you have the Northern Dominions, which is on the north of the Borderlands. Then you have
Mhm.
the Southern Realms, and a place that I haven't explored a lot yet in my writing is the Western Kingdoms. And at some point, I will bring them in. But it's just a fictional world. You've got deserts and mountains and rivers, and rivers play an important role in these people's lives because that was water and transportation.
Yeah,
So I just took it from there, and I think that the more I write, the better I get at world building.
sure.
And there's some unique ways you can go back and do that. You can do that through flashbacks. You can do that for various. I probably could go back and rewrite Legends, and it would be another 60,000 words.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I'm proud of it, but so I'm trying to use these next books to really set more of the world building.
Hmm. And you kind of hit on something key there, this important aspect of we get better as we write.
Yes, yes, and my I've been blessed with a wonderful tribe of beta readers
Hmm.
that they hit me pretty hard, and that's
Good.
what I asked them to do. I have a wonderful editor. Jeannie is fantastic,
Hmm.
and she has applauded the growth in the writing over the last three books.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
That's good.
as you sort of figure out your own style, your own craft, you're not really you have to read to write.
Hmm.
So you need to pull inspiration from a lot of different places.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now I know that there are so if you look at the names, just going through basically the write-up of the book that we're going to talk about, if you go through the names, it sounds like there's some Native American influence in the naming conventions. Am I just imagining that, or?
I was looking at your question when I got home from church today, and I thought that was interesting. Actually, I like the biblical names.
Okay.
I really pull from there.
Okay.
David's mighty men. There's some
Hmm.
great names in there. Seth, Hezekiah. So I really borrow heavily on those Old Testament names.
Hmm.
I think they fit. I think they fit the fantasy world. They're strong names, and so that's where I pull most of it from.
Yeah. Having a son named Thomas and a son named Paul.
There you go.
Okay. We're kind of right in there.
Right, 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 right.
So there are three books that are already set in this world. Although, like I said, we want to talk about the next book coming up, the one just about to launch. But why don't you tell us about those others in the series first?
So the first one starts off with Legends of Black Hawk, and it's the tale of Wolf Blackhawk. His family lives outside of a small village called Shallow Cross. and the territory is actually named after the family.
Hmm.
Years ago, a great great grandfather did something heroic. They named the territory after the Blackhawks. The Orcs invade. His uncle and father are killed in the fighting. He flees to Beth Amin, where his mother and brother have already fled to, and his mother is from Beth Amin, and so she flees to her home country.
Hmm.
And then it really just follows the tale of these of Wolf as he becomes a soldier, as he starts to grow as an archer and a swordsman and a horseman. The And then at the end of it, he's sent off on a quest, and I think that is a defining piece in the book. He's young; he's 17, 18 years old, and with each step, he goes farther and farther away from home. But
Huh.
one of the things I really draw out on this book is a relationship between rider and horse. He has a bond
Sure.
with the horse that goes beyond, your normal cavalryman and their horse.
Hmm. I think that's and so my cousin actually works with horses, and I think that's actually true. People who ride a lot and work a lot with animals like that develop this almost it's almost a psychic bond with their animals.
Yes, and they're funny creatures.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
I was fortunate enough to live in a home where my father wanted horses, and so I got to grow up on horseback. And so
Hmm.
those experiences have really influenced the writing,
Yeah.
the care for your animals and making sure that they're safe, they're protected as much
Yeah.
as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in this next book, we're going to see this young ranger who's faced with leading a contingent of refugees homeward. Now, this character Seth Blackhawk. Who do you think Seth really is?
That's been the fun part about writing the story is in the original writings of Legends, he was just really Wolf's little brother,
Hmm.
kind of a bit player. But
Hmm.
Seth kept getting mad at me, and he wanted more
Yeah.
time. He wanted to get out of his brother's shadow and go on and do things. And as he gets older, he realizes that he has these ranger skills like his uncle did. And so he
Hmm.
can do certain things with druidic magic that just the normal human being can't do. And so he really separates himself out as a tracker, a pathfinder, and it's been fun to write him.
Hmm.
In Ripley's Keep, which is the second novel, Seth exits the story, and I purposely wrote him out of those because I wanted to give him his own tale.
Hmm.
And it also allowed me to go back into Blackhawk and explore the territory that I didn't do in Legends.
Okay.
And so I spend a considerable amount of time talking about the different villages and the rivers that make up the Blackhawk territory. Finding Seth, Seth is angry. He's brooding. He almost has a sort of a Batman feel to him,
Hmm.
or a Moon Knight, whichever you're if you're a Marvel or DC
Yeah.
fan. But he's ends justify the means for Seth. And he's his brother's a Boy Scout. His brother's Captain America. He's always going to make the right call. For Seth, it doesn't matter. It's the end justifies the means. So if he has to kill to free Blackhawk, then he will do so. And it's been fun to kind of let him define himself.
And that's a really important part of character development is allowing yourself to be open to the experience of and people you know as an author people think we're crazy when we say things like this, but you have to let the character speak to you and tell you what they want to do.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I have conversations with my characters all the time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I mean it sounds like the driving force behind this was that conversation that you had with this next series spinoff,
So it's
another
going to
element to the other world.
Right. It's going to tie. What I'm trying to do is there's also another character that comes out of Legends and Ripley's Keep by the name of Maria.
Hmm.
And Wolf and Maria wed towards the end of book one.
Hmm.
And she ends up becoming queen of Beth Amin.
Okay.
Her uncle abdicates the throne. He doesn't want to be king. He wants to be a horse soldier, and that's all he wants to do.
Hmm.
So now you have this young queen on the throne. Wolf is gone. He doesn't know she's a queen. So there's some fun play with that. But I
Hmm.
also wrote her out of book two, Ripley's
Okay.
Keep. And I'm going to parallel her story when I'm done with Seth's. And what I
Okay.
wanted to do is lead up to the conclusion of the battle at the Mulford River.
Okay.
And then from there, I just released earlier this month Rise of the Archmage, which is book three of the series. And so I'm going to pause that story with those characters and go back and really explore Seth and Maria. Maria's not a fighter, she's not a warrior, but she's going to be the diplomat queen. She's going to be the one that unites the Southern realms where others failed to do so.
She's a leader in a different style.
Completely different
Yeah.
style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So, Tales seems to be, I think, in a fantasy, in fantasy writing. So I don't do fantasy writing. I'm mystery, horror, and science fiction, which is all very much dialogue driven versus, this epic world building kind of thing, which I'm always in awe of. By the way, anybody that can do that, I just appreciate the heck out of them. This seems like a very classic story in the fantasy world. Now, why do you think kind of that whole, leading your people and becoming who you are, why does that track so well with readers?
I don't, it's interesting because I think part of that, 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 that Tolkien, Brooks, even Gary Gygax to a certain extent, you have these epic adventures that you go on,
Mhm.
and I think people want to relate and read about heroes overcoming odds. I think that's the American story, is
Yeah.
overcoming odds. So I think that's why that trope continues to play. I know that I've got beta readers and my youngest son who does a tremendous amount of content editing for me.
Hmm.
I killed one of the characters and they were furious about it. So you take those chances, but I do think that trope continues to play well, and it's so wide open, Brian, that you can do whatever you want inside of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking about, I say the same thing about horror. Horror is such a wide umbrella. You can have this romantic horror element, and then you can have slasher elements, and you can do so many different things under it. Um,
Right,
yeah.
right. I think also too, the 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 fantasy allows you to do things that maybe you couldn't do in historical fiction or things like that. It really
Yeah.
allows you to open up your imagination
Yeah.
and play with things. And I think if you're fair with your readers and setting up your scenes and your books, I think they'll buy some of the wacky things that you do.
Sure. You just can't really, you can't jump the shark, so to speak. You can't like have a magic world where people are on horseback and all of a sudden a 747 shows up. That's disingenuous to the genre that you're writing.
Right.
And it'll turn people off.
It will.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
will. I think you've got to be, I think fantasy consumers and science fiction consumers are probably the most brutal audience you could write to,
Oh yeah.
because
Oh,
they will nitpick you to death.
absolutely. You're 100% correct. And that is something I always think about when I'm writing something that's science fiction related. You have to be careful not to do things that are disingenuous to what we know of in the genre. You can build towards what you want to do, but you have to build that first, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You have to set things up. And again, for anybody out there that watches this that is thinking about, jumping into the writing world,
Mhm.
I can't stress enough about having a tribe of folks that you trust that will absolutely steer you, where you need to be. Sierra is one of those folks for me.
Mhm.
And it took me forever to get Rise of the Archmage completed. But when she came back to me for one of my, when she beta read it for me, she had some huge plot gaps in here. And at the end of the story, I was, throwing things out to set up, two other books. And she goes, "You can't do this to the reader. You're
Yeah.
just throwing this at us at the end of the book. You've got to set this up throughout." And that was a really good lesson to learn.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
takes a few more minutes to, and you don't, does it have to be an entire chapter? It could just be a sentence
Hmm.
that sets that scene.
Yeah. That's what I often fascinates me about when I get edits back and I have to fix something because my editor says you need to do X. X can be a few words. It doesn't have to be a complete and total rewrite.
Correct.
And that's, sometimes it just takes a little bit of a special ingredient to kind of make it happen.
Right.
You know.
Right. And one of the scenes that I wrote in Ripley's Keep,
Mhm.
uh, the, the rogue disappears inside of a bar, hiding in the shadows. And my editor came back and said, "No, this doesn't work. You're writing fantasy. I get that, but did he do it by magic? Did he do it by skill? You need to give us a little more
Yeah.
insight on how he does this, because this is the first time we're seeing him do it." And again, great advice. But it was just a couple of words that tightened that entire scene up.
He took a bite of the onion of invisibility.
Right.
Feel
Right.
feel free to use that. Um, it's my gift to the world right there, the onion of invisibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is when you're writing, especially when you're operating in this world, are there things that happen while you are writing your dialogue and writing your narration, or their narrative? Are there things that happen that shock you?
Yes. Yes, there are. There are. There was a scene that I had originally written in Rise of the Archmage. And as I got through the scene and I went back to take another look at it, it was wrong. And
Mm,
it frustrated me that I had missed
yeah.
some details. But I also was able to rework how it ended up.
Hmm.
I use drow in my stories, dark elves. And um, this young drow ranger hires herself out as a mercenary.
Hmm.
Well, in the original scene, she kills more than just her targets. And that shocked me when I got done with it, because that's not how I set her up to operate.
Hmm.
She's very precise. She only kills who she needs to kill, and then she's done.
But as we say, mistakes are made.
Just catch her
And
before it goes to
yeah,
print.
yeah. Well, and exactly. Well, but it's it goes back to this idea that you cannot have a perfect character. Every character has to have some crack in the armor somewhere, because if you don't, they're not real.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
And I can't remember where I got this little nugget from, but
Mm-hmm.
this writer called it your care package.
Mm-hmm.
And every character has a care package. They have something that they care about passionately,
Mm-hmm.
that they will actually die for.
Yeah.
And that has been one of the funnest things about writing these books, is the probably the nine main characters through the first three books. They each have something very unique that they care about.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives them sort of this quirkiness to them.
Sure.
And even this horse that I've been writing to, I've given her some character. She's got some
I
personality
think
to
you
her as
I think
well.
you've got to explain that. The horse that I've been writing to.
Yeah.
You're writing
So
to a horse?
no, 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 no. The when I write the horse,
Oh,
when I
right.
write about
Okay.
the horse, yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm not completely off the deep
I'm
end
like,
yet.
you're writing to a horse. Okay. I have a son who's studying psychology. We may want to have him join us here. Little
Yes,
therapy session. You hear the horse talking to you. They send you letters.
she does. She does talk.
Hmm.
She does talk to me. So, and she's based off a horse I had as a
Yeah.
kid that just
Yeah.
had a ton of personality, and so I've kind of brought that into this one. So,
It's like in Magic Kingdom for Sale, Quest or Thews,
yes,
talking dog.
exactly.
And so quick story. I had when I went to do the interview with Terry Brooks, I brought with me a first edition, first printing Magic Kingdom for sale to get him to sign it. And
Nice.
it is one of my it's over on my shelf. I have a light that shines down upon it. I'm like, it's amazing. So, when does your book come out anyway? This is a new book.
Which one? Seth?
Yeah,
Yes.
the next one.
Yeah. So it's going to be called obviously continue on with the Tales from Guyend,
Yep.
but it's going to be called The Wraith,
Mhm.
and that is what the soldiers from Black Hawk have dubbed him
Mhm.
because he kills without a trace and disappears.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that that one is going to be out hopefully in the spring,
Mhm.
maybe early summer of 24.
Okay.
I don't get to write full time. It's
Sure.
a hobby. So I
Yeah.
have a 40-hour a week job that I've got to do. So, but in my spare time and on the weekends, I write as much as I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I try to, and that's an important thing is having that routine built in somehow.
yes,
So you can do it. I actually wake up super early every morning and I write. I take the dog for a walk and then I write. And there are some people that have a fairly successful career just writing on the weekends,
right.
and that's good.
Yeah,
But
I'm hoping for that.
yeah, and you have to have that consistency. So it's hope for other people out there who watch this and think, man, I really want to be where they're at. Well, you can be. It's just that consistency has to be baked into the paradigm. So I always and I started doing this a bunch of interviews ago, and I thought it was a really cool idea. So imagine we'll do a little bit of a role playing here. Let's say you're at a con, you're sitting there, you've got a stack of books next to you, and I walk up to you and say, "Hey, you know, uh, I'm interested in this book. Sell me on it."
That's a good question, and
And honestly, it's one we don't think about enough as authors. We really
I,
should.
I think
Yeah.
so. And we can be clear and concise in our writing, but sometimes we're not clear and concise in how we speak to folks. So, fair question. I like to link my when I give that talk or that
Mhm.
speech, whatever you want to call it, back to if you're a fan of fantasy and if you
Mhm.
like Tolkien and Brooks, you're going to enjoy these. These are classic tales of good versus evil, and it's high fantasy. You're going to get to see magic, you're going to see dragons. So if that's something that appeals to you, I don't use language. The I think that the harshest word that I use in any of the writings is damn.
Mhm.
I've got what did Sear call it, soft romance between some of the characters. So there's nothing like that, and the books aren't graphic. But I do explain to them, that it is a tale. It's an adventure. It's a quest that these folks go on. Is it what they wanted to do? Is it what they wanted to do with their lives? No, but it's a calling for them, and they were brave enough to answer the call.
I like it. I think that's a really good way to start out, especially when we're in indie. We can turn around and say things like, "Do you like?" I always say, "Do you like Dean Koontz?" Because my style tends to be very Kuntzian, if you will.
Right.
So it's a good way to tell people, this is what the book's about. So, um, I I highly encourage everybody within the sounds of our voices to go out and check out, and I will leave a link. I'll put it up on the screen here for people to go and find your books. But of course, most importantly, where can we find your books? Why don't you tell us?
So the best way is to either reach me through Facebook. You can either do it. I've got a site for Tales from Guyand, and I also have a personal page. You can email me at cgrooms2717 at Gmail. I prefer the direct sales,
Okay.
but they're also available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we all have to be there. We have no, and increasingly we have to be available for the direct sale. So a lot of people that like hard copy books these days. So we got to be there. Well, I can say I very much enjoyed hanging out with you today, Chris. It's been great. I'm glad we had a couple technical issues, which hopefully nobody will see on the finished product, but things happen. That's the problem with technology, right? Um, but I love talking to authors, and I highly suspect that many of the listeners out there and the viewers out there also love watching the shows as well. Now, still, I do want to bring up for some people watching, you're not hitting that subscribe button, and that makes me cry into my pillow at night. So, if you would please hit that subscribe button, do me that little kindness. I can stop crying into my pillow at night because it's making my wife very uncomfortable. Uh, Seriously, though, it'll make me happy. So, on behalf of all things writing, I need to thank my amazing guest, Chris Grooms, for hanging out with me today. Chris, this has been amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I know it was kind of a last minute scheduling, but thank you.
Ah, it
To
works
get
out
the
very, very well.
yes, and to get the word out about Rise of the Archmage, I was very pleased with it. And now that it's on the streets, I can turn my attention to Seth.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I want to encourage everybody. Please stay tuned for next week when I am going to have back on the show the author of the detective series, Harriet Foster, Tracy Clark. You're going to remember that she was the author. She came to me with the book Hyde, which I very much enjoyed. I was a huge fan of that one. But she's coming to me with her next book in that series. So, on behalf of me and my guest Chris, thanks again. Um, the author of the Tales from Guyane. Check it out when it hits. When does it hit? And we said when was it going to hit the book stands?
So, Rise of the Archmage is out. It
Okay.
was published earlier this month,
Mhm.
and then Ripley's Keep is book two, and Legends of Black Hawk is book one. So I have
Okay.
all three books available. And then Seth, um I'm hoping and praying, Brian, that he's going to see the light of day sometime during the spring.
Excellent, excellent. Well, again, on behalf of myself and my guest Chris, this is All Things Writing, signing out.
All right, thank you, Brian.
This has been another amazing episode of All Things Writing. If you heard something that got your wheels spinning, check out the links in the show notes. Also, please follow the show and remember to leave those reviews. Those simple acts of kindness mean the world to us. Hop on over to briannowak.com, and that is Brian with a Y, and check out my latest novels. I'm on Amazon or wherever you buy your ebooks. And as a reminder, the music you heard on the show today was used under license from the artist Ryan Ancona. Thanks for listening to the show and have a blessed day.